This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. The book is The War Between. The author is T.K. Moore. In the year 2032, a biochemical weapon reigned over the human race. Those under the guise of being human were stripped of their skin, and their true forms were revealed. The world fell into chaos as these Starseeds were being targeted and killed one by one. Starseeds soon became vastly outnumbered by the Soulless. The Sumerian goddess Asherah predicted the fall of humankind. She warned that one woman would build an army and replenish civilization with a god by her side. The two would restore the earth to her proper form. The Great Awakening has begun. T.K. Moore is a creative writer and always has been since elementary school. All of her writing projects have stemmed from her dreams. So everyone who enjoys her books get a sneak peek into her brain. Happy to have T.K. Moore join me now here on Speaking of Writers. TK, welcome to this program.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you for having me.
So where did this story come from?
Oh, it was a dream that I had in 2021. And every time I woke up, it would hit pause. And every time I went back to sleep, it hit play. It went on for about a week. And honestly, I was just astonished at how grave the detail. There was just so much of it, and of course, the majority of the dialogue came from it, and so I just kind of took it and ran with it.
This is your third book, The War Between. This character, Asherah, how did you create Asherah?
I actually went through and looked through a lot of the different gods and goddesses of from Sumerian, and she happened to be the one that stuck out the most in the description from what I had seen in my dream.
How has life changed for you since that dream?
It's definitely been quite interesting in terms of, my spirituality and kind of looking more into, the deities of the past, the old, gods of the old.
Let's talk about dreams. What is it like being able to remember your dreams in such detail?
Oh, sometimes it's scary because a lot of the intricate detail, the dialogue, the people that are involved, the vibrant colors, and it's just a lot of people think it's a gift, but sometimes I think it's a curse because it's like I want to move forward, but I kind of can't because it's just stuck. So of course, when I started mentioning these to my cousin and my friends, they're just like, why don't you just write a book and see what happens? And I'm like, maybe I should. And then I did. And then this happened.
Now, speaking of writing a book, so when you have these dreams, do you take notes? Do you keep a journal?
I used to keep a journal, but because they are kind of stuck in my memory, I don't really have to. I do jot down plot lines to kind of obviously make the story a story. And it definitely helps along the way. And then, of course, I do change a few things because a lot of the things that do happen in my dreams aren't supposed to be revealed, or it's just too, how do I put it, explicit in some areas. So, yes, I do change a few things, but about 90% of the story has come from the dream itself.
We're chatting with T.K. Moore here on Speaking of Writers. Her new book is The War Between. It is available at writersrepublic.com, also Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. So I want to go back to the writing process a bit, T.K. So you have the dream, you have a little bit of an outline. What else is part of the writing process for you?
Character development, definitely, sit down and figure out what the character dislikes and likes, and I go into the description from what I saw to the best of my ability because, of course, what I see, I can't necessarily write all at the same time, or there's a couple things I have to tweak, definitely with the character development, and then I got to go over it 17,852 times because I am dyslexic, so I have to make sure my sentences are not backwards. But, for the most part, especially when I am writing dialogue, I speak and then I kind of mirror the action as to what people would actually do when they're speaking in this form or when they're saying a specific thing to kind of give them more in-depth description of kind of who they are. Character identity definitely helps. It makes makes the dialogue a little bit more funny. Always have to throw in some sort of joke. People will get it in the end.
You live in a beautiful place, Alaska. How does that inspire your thinking and writing?
Definitely, because I do live in the valley. It's clear and it's dark in some cases, especially during the wintertime. I can step outside and stare at the stars and kind of just, drift back into that dream for a moment, picture it, write it down, move forward. Definitely helps when, I need to clear my space or kind of reground myself to refocus back on the dream itself. It definitely helps, stepping back out into nature for a moment to just take a breather and regain my focus.
I mentioned, TK, in the introduction that you've always been a writer, since elementary school. What inspired you to start writing at that age?
I was reading chapter books, in fourth grade, and I loved the Unicorns of Valinor. Like that was just my favorite book ever. And I loved how the descriptions were laid out and the storyline. And when I started getting older, definitely could tell that I was a storyteller. So dramatic, so drastic, so just out there. So I wanted to try and write stories of my own, because people tell those stupid jokes. Why did the chicken cross the road? And I said, well, to get to the other side. But then I was like, well, thinking outside the box, but why did he want to get to the other side? Well, let me describe how this would work. And when I actually had, I had a couple of my teachers who were like, well, this is a great little story like you got here, and when I moved into college, things definitely changed when I kept getting, my professors were pulling me aside and telling me that, even though it was a short story, one page, there was so much description. I felt your pain when you hit your knee on the step and when you slid down and how the cereal shifted in your, I gave them a nice visual as to what the heck was happening. And then I was constantly telling my cousin about these dreams, Stefan Mills. He's in New York, actually. And he was like, why don't you just write? Just go ahead and write. Throw out a paragraph and send it to me, and I'll tell you what I think. And I'm just like, I don't know. But then he kept pressuring me to do it, so I did it. And he was like, and where's the rest of the book? So that's when it all started. Actually, I started writing in 2020, full-length novels. And this book actually has a sequel coming out. I was actually just finishing up the outline yesterday. So, yay!
We're chatting with TK Moore here on Speaking of Writers. Her book is The War Between, and a sequel coming. She just teased that. Advice for other writers, what would you give them?
Don't ever give up. Practice makes perfect, and nothing in writing is perfect. Trust me, there is no such thing as a perfect writer. Don't let anybody tell you that you're being overly descriptive. Give them that peace of mind that that they're seeing what you're writing. You want to describe somebody's actions? Do it. You want to describe a particular scene? Do it. Don't under-describe. There is no such thing as over-describing. Unless you're describing what a shoe looks like, I'm pretty sure 99.9% of us know what one of those looks like, unless it's a really fancy shoe. But we don't need 3 pages on it, I promise you. But in the end, don't give up. Always take your feelings when it comes to criticism. Don't take offense to it, because it's here to help you. Because, again, you're not perfect. Neither is anybody else. And at the end of the day, your story is your story, whether anybody likes it or not. You're always going to have people who disapprove of what you write. You cannot please anybody and everybody.
And, TK, what would you like readers to take away from The War Between? Honestly,
things are changing. You just take the red pill. Don't take the blue one. Break free from the matrix. That's really about it.
The War Between by TK Moore is available at writersrepublic.com, also Amazon.com, and BarnesandNoble.com. TK, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to bring up?
This book did win the Plume Award for literary excellence. So, I mean, if people like it that much, I would like to see a little bit more in terms of, feedback, from other readers and writers. But, hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. Again, you can't please them all.
Your third book, The War Between, T.K. Moore. There is a sequel coming. We'll look out for that, but enjoy this one now. T.K. Moore, thank you for joining me.
Of course, thank you for having me.
And this is Speaking of Writers.